Funny thing about lies, they spread faster than truth, don't they? One whisper, one smirk, one well-placed story, and suddenly the world has made up its mind about you. People love lies because they're easy to digest. The truth, that's heavy. It demands thought. It demands patience. Two things most people don't have. So they pick the lie. They run with it. They build entire opinions out of thin air and call it fact. You watch them, pretending they're detectives, piecing together rumors like it's some grand revelation. And you stand there silent, knowing you could destroy the whole thing with one sentence. But you don't. You let them talk. Because that's when you realize who's loyal, who's gullible, and who was waiting for a reason to turn on you. Lies expose loyalty faster than truth ever could. It's strange, isn't it? You spend years building connections, laughing with people, trusting them, thinking they see you. Then one lie slips into the air, and suddenly everything changes. You don't even have to defend yourself. The reactions do it for you. Watch how quickly some people turn their heads, how fast their tone shifts, how suddenly they forget everything you've ever done right. That's the magic of lies. They don't just test your name, they test their loyalty. You'll notice something. The ones who truly know you, they don't flinch. They don't need proof, screenshots, or explanations. They've seen your consistency. They've felt your character. They wait for the noise to pass because they know truth doesn't panic. But the others, the others can't resist. They feed on the drama, sip on the gossip like it's fine wine. They pretend concern, but you can hear the excitement in their voices. They wanted this. They wanted a reason to believe something ugly about you, because it made their insecurities feel smaller. That's how loyalty works. It's not measured in smiles or compliments. It's measured in silence when your name isn't in the room to defend itself. Some people will speak up for you. Most won't. They'll just listen, nod, and let the lie live because it benefits them. It's convenient. It's easier to let you burn than to stand in the fire beside you. That's the truth about loyalty. It's only real when it costs something. When standing with you means standing against the crowd. When a lie about you spreads, don't rush to correct it. Don't chase explanations. Just watch. The storm will do the sorting for you. People reveal themselves faster under chaos than under calm. Watch who distances themselves quietly, who watches your downfall with a smirk, who pretends to stay neutral. Neutrality is just cowardice wrapped in politeness. Loyalty doesn't hide behind silence. It stands up and says, no, that's not who they are, even when it's unpopular. The beauty of a lie is that it shows you what truth can't. Truth makes people comfortable. Lies make them choose. They'll show you where they really stand, what they really think, and how easily they'll believe the worst version of you. It's painful, but it's pure. You'll start to see people for who they are, not who they pretend to be. Some were never loyal to you. They were loyal to the version of you that served them. The moment that version was questioned, they vanished. And you, standing there in the middle of it all, You'll feel betrayed, angry, humiliated. You'll want to scream your truth, but don't, because lies burn fast and truth burns slow but forever. The ones who left will regret it. The ones who stayed will never forget it. Pain has a way of polishing perception. After this, you'll never confuse company with loyalty again. You'll stop mistaking shared laughter for shared values. You'll learn that some people don't love you. They love your usefulness. And once a lie makes you useless to them, they find someone new to believe in. The most loyal ones. They won't ask for explanations. They'll see the storm, feel the tension, and still stand by your side. They'll know the difference between your flaws and false accusations. They'll defend your character without needing your presence. And that's rare, painfully rare. But that's what lies are for. They clean your circle. They burn the weak links. They make it impossible for fakes to hide. Lies are like acid. They dissolve everything that isn't solid. Your friendships, your image, your comfort, all of it gets tested. But what survives afterward, that's real. That's unshakable. That's loyalty refined by fire. So when a lie finds its way into your story, don't see it as a curse. See it as a mirror. It shows you who was clapping for you only because the lights were on. It shows you who still stands when the crowd turns away. You can't control what people say, but you can control what you see. And when the smoke clears, you'll realize the lie did you a favor. It didn't destroy you. It revealed the truth you refused to face. Not about yourself, about them. It showed you that some people don't need evidence to doubt you. They just need an opportunity. It showed you that real loyalty doesn't waver, doesn't whisper, doesn't wonder. It stands firm. And the moment you see that clearly, you stop begging for explanations. Because now you know who's real, who's weak, and who was only loyal when loyalty was easy. Silence is the loudest response to betrayal. People expect a reaction. They want a scene, a breakdown, a fight. They want to see you lose control because that gives them proof. Not of your guilt, but of your weakness. They feed off the noise. They want the drama, the explanations, the desperate attempts to prove your innocence. But silence ruins their appetite. Silence starves the rumor. When you say nothing, they have nothing left to twist. You become unreadable, unpredictable, untouchable, and that drives them insane. Silence isn't weakness. It's power disguised as restraint. It's the refusal to waste energy on people who already made up their minds. You learn that explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you is like talking to a wall that loves the echo of your frustration. Betrayal is noise. Your silence becomes the silence after the explosion. The part where everything settles and everyone starts to see the mess for what it really is. You don't clean it up. You let it sit. You let time show who threw the first match. Silence doesn't mean you don't care. It means you've decided your peace is more valuable than your pride. It means you're done performing for people who enjoy your pain more than your progress. You stop reacting because you finally understand. Reaction is currency. The more you respond, the more they profit. They want to pull you into the chaos they created, make you dance in their drama, make you look unstable while they play innocent. But when you stay quiet, you take their power away. You deny them their audience. You force them to confront their own reflection in the noise they made. Betrayal teaches you how loud silence can be. When you go quiet, people start to panic. They wonder what you're planning, what you're thinking, what you know. They realize they can't control a calm person. Chaos loses its edge when you refuse to feed it. And suddenly, the same people who lied about you start trying to predict your next move. That's the beauty of silence. It shifts the control back to you without you lifting a finger. Silence is discipline. It's emotional maturity sharpened by pain. It's the moment you stop trying to win in small arguments and start preparing to win in life. You stop defending your name and start protecting your energy. You start understanding that truth doesn't need a lawyer. It needs patience. Lies have short legs. They run fast, but not far. So you let them sprint while you walk, slowly, quietly. Because silence is never empty. It's loaded. It's the sound of someone who knows the difference between justice and revenge. Most people can't handle silence. They need attention to survive. They'll poke, provoke, spread more lies just to get a reaction from you. They can't stand being ignored because your silence reminds them of their insignificance. They expected you to crumble, and instead you're calm. You're still building, still moving, still standing. That's what hurts them most, that they didn't stop you. They only exposed themselves. Silence after betrayal isn't just protection, it's observation. You start watching how people move when they think you're finished. You see the opportunists, the cowards, the quiet watchers. You learn who checks on you genuinely and who checks on you for gossip. You learn the language of actions. Who speaks for you when you're not in the room? Who switches sides when it's convenient? Silence turns you into a student of human behavior. You stop listening to words because actions have started speaking louder. It's strange how silence changes everything. Before betrayal, you spoke to be understood. After it, you stay quiet to be free. You realize that peace isn't found in being right. It's found in being unbothered. You learn that not every battle deserves your sword, and not every insult deserves an answer. Because the truth always comes back around, and when it does, you want to be calm enough to smile, not bitter enough to scream. I told you so. The best revenge is silence because it keeps them guessing. It leaves them trapped in their own guilt, wondering if you've forgiven them, forgotten them, or are planning something worse. Silence is a mirror. It reflects everything they tried to project onto you. It makes them face the weight of what they did without the distraction of your reaction. And while they're busy explaining their side to anyone who will listen, you're already moving on, building something stronger, cleaner, quieter. Silence after betrayal is the evolution of strength. You outgrow the need to prove anything. You stop trying to fix the story. You realize that anyone who believed a lie without asking you first was never loyal to begin with. So you leave them where they stand, with their gossip, their guilt, and their noise. You keep walking quietly. Because silence doesn't mean surrender. It means you've chosen a higher battlefield, one where peace is the victory, and noise is just proof of who's still stuck below. False stories fade, solid character doesn't. You can't fight every rumor. You can't chase every lie. You'll wear yourself out trying to correct people who are committed to misunderstanding you. The truth is, false stories have an expiration date, but character doesn't. Lies burn bright and fast. They get attention. They make noise. They stir up chaos. But then they die out because there's nothing real keeping them alive. Character, though, that's permanent. That's the quiet, unshakable thing that outlasts every false version of you people try to create. When someone lies about you, it feels personal. Like a knife in the back you never saw coming. It shakes your trust, makes you question your worth. But over time, you realize something. You don't have to defend yourself to anyone who's known your consistency. Real ones already know your truth. The rest. They'll believe what entertains them, not what's real. Because people love drama more than they love depth. They'll repeat lies because they're exciting, because they make them feel connected to something. But false stories, no matter how loud, always collapse under the weight of time. Character is what keeps you standing when everything around you tries to bury your name. It's what people remember long after the rumor fades. You can't fake integrity for long. You can't pretend decency when no one's watching. That's what separates you from the noise. Your ability to stay consistent when your reputation's under attack. You don't change your tone. You don't beg for approval. You keep doing what you've always done, because time reveals truth better than any defense ever could. False stories have power only when you give them attention. When you react, you feed them. When you explain, you validate them. But when you stay rooted in your truth, they lose oxygen. They start to sound hollow. Even the ones who believe them begin to question their own judgment. That's the thing about lies. They sound convincing at first, but they don't age well. The cracks start to show. The story starts to fall apart, because falsehood can't survive consistency. And character is nothing if not consistent. You'll notice something when the dust settles. People who once doubted you will start to circle back, quietly, awkwardly. They won't admit they were wrong. They'll just start acting like they never left. They'll say things like, "I always knew you'd bounce back," when the truth is, they never believed in you in the first place. But you won't need to correct them, because the fact that you're still standing, still moving, still calm, that's proof enough. False stories fade, and when they do, the people who spread them disappear with them. Character doesn't need a spotlight. It's built in the moments no one sees. In how you treat people who can't help you. In how you act when you could lie, but choose not to. In how you stay true when compromise would be easier. That's the kind of thing time can't destroy. Lies can't touch it. Because character doesn't live in words. It lives in actions, and actions over time always expose everything: the fake, the faithful, the foolish. It's strange how easily people forget what you've done right the moment they hear something wrong. One rumor can erase 1,000 good deeds in their minds. But that's not your problem to fix. Because people who can forget everything good you've ever done because of one false story never really saw your value. They just liked your image. And the thing about images is they change. But your essence, your truth, your character, that's untouchable. You can't out-scream a lie. You outlast it. You do it by living well, by staying patient, by refusing to shrink to their level. That's how you win. Not by reacting, but by remaining. Because the louder the lie, the shorter its life. People's attention spans are small. They'll move on to someone else soon. But those who truly pay attention, those who've been watching quietly, they'll see. They'll notice that your behavior never matched the rumor. That your piece never cracked, your voice never shook. That's when they'll realize the story was false, and you were never the villain. You were the lesson. And here's the thing. False stories may damage your image, but they can't touch your identity. You are not what they say. You are what you continue to prove through consistency. Character is the one thing that doesn't need defense, because time defends it better than words ever could. It's not about clearing your name. It's about keeping your soul clean. Because names fade from people's mouths, but character echoes long after the noise is gone. So let them talk. Let them spread whatever helps them sleep at night. You just keep being who you are. Because one day, the same mouths that doubted you will speak your truth without realizing it. The same crowd that mocked you will quote your strength like it's wisdom. False stories fade. They always do. But solid character, it carves itself into time, quietly, relentlessly, until even the lies bow to it. Reputation built on truth outlives rumor built on noise. You see, a lie makes an entrance like fireworks, loud, bright, impossible to ignore, but it burns out just as fast. Truth doesn't explode, it endures. It doesn't need a crowd to believe it, doesn't beg for attention, doesn't dance for validation. It just exists. Patient, unshaken, waiting for the smoke to clear. Because the truth doesn't rush. It knows time will eventually silence the noise. When your reputation is built on truth, it doesn't matter how many times people try to rewrite your story. You can't erase something that's written in authenticity. People will throw rumors like stones, hoping one sticks. But truth is armor, invisible, silent, and indestructible. Lies sound louder, sure, because they feed on shock and gossip. But the truth, it feeds on evidence. It feeds on time. And while lies may win the crowd for a moment, the truth wins history. Always. There's a strange satisfaction in watching those who doubted you realize the noise they believed was just that. Noise. No substance. No depth. Just empty echoes from people who can't stand still long enough to find peace in honesty. The ones who talk the loudest are usually the ones running from their own guilt. That's why rumor feels so urgent. Because lies need speed to survive. Truth doesn't. Truth walks slowly, confidently, because it knows where it's going. People often mistake reputation for performance. How well you act, how well you play the part. But reputation built on truth isn't about acting. It's about being. It's about standing in your reality when everyone's trying to push you into theirs. You don't perform for approval. You live by principle. That's why your reputation lasts. Because while others are chasing trends, you're anchored in truth. And the funny part, the same people who gossip about you will one day quote you when it's safe to. A reputation built on noise is fragile. It needs constant maintenance, constant lies to patch the holes. The moment truth touches it, it collapses. But a reputation built on truth is self-sustaining. It doesn't depend on who's watching. It doesn't need applause. It simply grows with every test, every betrayal, every attempt to destroy it. Because every attack only exposes its strength. That's the paradox. The more they try to break it, the stronger it becomes. There's power in not responding to every rumor, in just smiling while people think they've uncovered something. Because deep down, you know that time will tell. And when it does, it won't need your help. You see, truth doesn't require defense, only patience. Lies require constant explanation, constant noise to stay alive. But the truth, it doesn't flinch. It lets the liars exhaust themselves until they have nothing left to say. And by then, everyone sees who was real and who was desperate. The world loves the idea of instant justice. They want the truth to scream the moment the lie appears. But that's not how it works. Real truth is quiet, deliberate. It doesn't announce itself. It reveals itself, slowly, piece by piece, like dawn creeping through darkness. And when it does, the noise looks ridiculous. You start to see how hollow their words were, how empty their conviction was. Because rumor can't stand under light. It melts. There's also a strange kind of peace that comes from knowing your truth can't be taken. People can twist your story. They can distort your image. They can try to stain your name. But your truth, the real one, doesn't belong to them. It's untouchable. You carry it with you in the way you move, the way you speak, the way you survive every storm they send your way. That's what separates those built on truth from those built on noise. One stands after the storm. The other gets washed away. The problem with people who build their image on lies is that they're always afraid of being found out, afraid of silence, afraid of mirrors, because deep down, they know their reputation is a performance, not a reflection. But if you've built yours on truth, you don't flinch at exposure. You don't fear the spotlight or the whispers. Because what's real doesn't crumble under pressure. It reveals its strength there. People forget that silence doesn't mean weakness. Sometimes silence is the greatest proof of confidence. When you don't argue, when you don't chase rumors, when you just keep doing what's right, you're telling the world, I don't need your approval to exist. And that shakes them, because they can't control what they can't provoke. Lies thrive on reaction, and your calm starves them. You'll notice Eventually, the same people who doubted you start imitating your peace. They start using your phrases, your strength, your patience, pretending they had it all along. They forget that you earned that calm through fire, that while they were busy making noise, you were building something solid, a reputation made of truth. It's funny, isn't it? How the truth doesn't fight, but always wins. Because no matter how loud the noise gets, when the dust settles, all that remains is what was real all along. Betrayal is just revelation in disguise. People think betrayal is the moment someone turns on you, but it's not. Betrayal is simply the mask slipping. It's the truth finally showing its face after pretending to care, pretending to be loyal, pretending to understand you. You see, most betrayals don't come from enemies. Enemies can't betray you. They've already shown you who they are. No, betrayal comes dressed as a friend, smiling, nodding, waiting. It comes from the ones who clapped when you succeeded, but with their teeth clenched. From the ones who said, "I've got your back," but were really counting the steps until they could push you off. And when it happens, it burns. It's personal. It makes you question everything. Your judgment, your instincts, your worth. You replay every conversation, every red flag you ignored, every moment you felt something was off, but gave them the benefit of the doubt. You realize you saw the signs. You just didn't want to believe them. Because it's easier to think people are good than to accept they were never really for you. But that's what betrayal does. It rips the comfort off your eyes. It forces you to see who's real and who's pretending. There's something strangely liberating about betrayal once the sting fades. You start seeing how fake the connection always was. The conversations that felt deep were just distractions. The support that seemed genuine was convenience. The loyalty you thought existed was performance. Betrayal isn't the breaking point. It's the unveiling. It's the moment you stop living in illusion. Because sometimes people don't betray you. They just finally reveal what they've always been hiding. Most people get stuck on the pain part. They think betrayal means they lost something valuable. But what if the betrayal was protection? What if it wasn't something being taken from you, but something being exposed for you? Think about it. Maybe you weren't meant to keep that person. Maybe their betrayal was the universe's way of saying, "You've outgrown this connection." Because nothing that's truly for you will ever require deception to stay. You learn a lot about people when you're no longer useful to them. You learn even more when they think they've hurt you. Betrayal shows you the truth about both. Who stood beside you for real and who was just standing close enough to benefit. It teaches you that love without loyalty is manipulation, and trust without discernment is just hope wearing blindfolds. But the good part. Once you've been betrayed, you can't be fooled the same way again. It sharpens you. It clears your vision. You start hearing tone over words, watching actions over promises. You stop believing in forever and start valuing consistency. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't destroy you. It refines you. It peels away the layers of naivety. It makes you colder, but in a good way. Not bitter, just aware. You stop letting everyone have access to your soul. You start guarding your peace like it's sacred, because now you know not everyone deserves to sit close to your fire. Betrayal teaches you boundaries that kindness never could. It shows you that not every hand reaching for you deserves to be held. And when people betray you, they think they've won. They think they've broken something that can't be fixed. But what they don't realize is they've freed you. They've removed themselves from a place they were never meant to occupy. They think their lies or disloyalty have damaged you, but all they've done is reveal their truth. They've exposed themselves without you having to lift a finger. That's the beauty of it. Betrayal is a confession you didn't have to ask for. Eventually, the betrayal stops hurting. The disappointment stays, sure, but the pain dulls. You start seeing it for what it was, a turning point. You realize it didn't destroy you, it redirected you. Because you can't move forward carrying people who were secretly holding you back. You can't reach new levels surrounded by old intentions. Betrayal pushes you to shed what's heavy, even if it hurts. It forces you to build from honesty, from clarity, from strength. And the best part, once the betrayal passes, so does the illusion. You stop romanticizing people's potential and start accepting their reality. You stop saving people from their own reflection. You stop trying to prove your loyalty to those who already decided to doubt it. That's freedom. The kind that comes after pain, the kind that doesn't fade. Because betrayal might hurt, but it never lies. It's the one truth the liar can't hide. It's strange, isn't it? How the people who betray you always end up revealing exactly why they could never walk where you're headed. They think they've wounded you, but they've actually identified themselves as obstacles. You don't even have to hate them. They've served their purpose. They showed you the cracks in your circle, the weakness in your trust, the cost of giving your energy to the wrong hands. That's why betrayal isn't a curse. It's a mirror, a painful, honest mirror that shows you who deserves to go forward with you and who was only meant to be part of the lesson. They told you to stay quiet, didn't they? To keep your dreams small, your emotions tucked away, your fire dim enough not to make anyone uncomfortable. They said it's safer that way. Don't draw attention. Don't take up space. Don't be too loud, too bold, too you. And for a while, you listened. You played along. You hid the parts of yourself that didn't fit their version of normal. You buried your brilliance under politeness. You disguised your passion as patience. You called your silence maturity, when really it was fear wearing a suit. You know what's funny? People think hiding makes them safe. They think if they stay quiet, stay small, stay invisible, they'll somehow avoid pain. But that's the lie, isn't it? You can't hide from pain. You can only trade one kind for another. You hide to avoid rejection, and in return, you get the kind of pain that whispers to you at night. The what if kind. The kind that eats you alive from the inside out. The kind that doesn't scream, just lingers. Because when you bury your truth, you're not protecting yourself. You're suffocating yourself. Every time you swallow your words, every time you shrink your presence, every time you fake a smile to keep the peace, a part of you dies a little. Slowly, quietly, politely. You start convincing yourself it's maturity, that you're being wise, cautious, strategic, but really it's fear. Fear dressed up in responsibility, fear pretending to be control. You tell yourself you're waiting for the right time, for the right moment, for the right opportunity. But there's no such thing. The right time never comes, because fear always finds a reason to delay. It keeps whispering, not yet, not now, not here. And before you know it, years have passed, and you've become a shadow in your own life. You're there, but not really living, just existing, just functioning. The truth is, hiding doesn't keep you safe. It keeps you stuck. You think you're avoiding failure, but you're actually avoiding growth. Because growth only happens in exposure. You can't evolve in secret. You can't discover your power while pretending you don't have any. You can't learn who you are by playing who you're not. The version of you that the world needs can't breathe in the dark. It needs to be seen. It needs to be tested. It needs to be heard. You know what the real tragedy is? The world never gets to meet the real you. They meet your edited version, the one you think they'll accept. You wear masks so well that even you forget who's underneath. And after a while, you start confusing the act with your identity. You call it survival, but it's really self-erasure. You silence yourself to fit into rooms you were meant to redesign. You dim your light to comfort people who are allergic to truth. You pretend to be small, thinking it'll protect you. But all it does is invite the kind of people who thrive on your silence. You see, the moment you start hiding, you give away your power. Because power doesn't live in perfection. It lives in authenticity, in being bold enough to say, "This is who I am. Take it or leave it." That's what terrifies people. Not your flaws, not your failures, your freedom. Because a person who's done hiding is uncontrollable. You can't manipulate someone who's no longer seeking approval. You can't break someone who's already embraced their truth. You can't shame someone who's made peace with their scars. That's real strength. The kind that doesn't need validation to exist. You think you're protecting yourself by hiding, but what you're really doing is robbing yourself of the very thing you're praying for. You ask for purpose, but you keep it private. You ask for success, but you won't show your work. You ask for connection, but you never let people see the real you. You want to be seen, but you're afraid of visibility. You want to be loved, but you won't be known. You can't be both hidden and fulfilled. You have to choose, because purpose and pretense can't coexist. One will always kill the other, and deep down, you know it. You feel it every time you bite your tongue, every time you fake confidence, every time you agree just to avoid standing out. You feel that tension, that internal scream that says, "This isn't me." But you push it down. hoping it'll disappear. It doesn't. It waits. Because truth is patient like that. It'll wait years, decades even. But one day it'll break through. Usually when you're tired, when you can't fake it anymore, when the mask starts to slip, that's when it happens. The breakdown that feels like madness, but is really awakening. You realize that hiding was never about protection. It was about fear of rejection. You were afraid people wouldn't understand you, that they'd laugh, judge, abandon you, and maybe some will, but that's the price of being real. You'll lose some people, but you'll find yourself, and that's worth more than their approval ever was. You'll find peace that doesn't depend on pretending. You'll find freedom in being misunderstood. You'll find strength in standing alone. Because the truth doesn't need to be liked. It just needs to be lived. And the ones who are meant for you will recognize it. They'll see your light and not flinch. They'll hear your truth and not run. But you'll never find them if you keep hiding. You can't attract what you refuse to show. The world can't celebrate a ghost. It can't reward potential it doesn't see. You've spent long enough playing small to make others comfortable. It's time to make yourself visible, even if your voice shakes, even if your hands tremble. Because the longer you hide, the more invisible you become, not to them, but to yourself. The world doesn't respect what it can't see. You can be the most talented, the most driven, the most gifted person in the room, but if you keep everything buried inside, if you never step forward, the world will walk right past you. It's cruel like that. It rewards exposure, not potential. You can have all the brilliance locked in your head, but brilliance that hides looks a lot like silence. And silence doesn't get noticed. It doesn't get remembered. It gets overlooked, stepped over, forgotten. Because in a world obsessed with noise, you can't afford to whisper your worth. You think people will somehow sense your greatness, that they'll feel it, that they'll see through your modesty and recognize what you carry. But they won't. They're too busy with their own noise, their own chaos, their own mirrors. They don't notice quiet potential. They notice bold presence. You keep waiting for someone to discover you, to pull you into the light. But that's not how it works. You have to step into the light yourself. You have to make the world stop and see you. Because nobody's coming to hand you recognition. You have to claim it. The tragedy is, so many people stay unseen, not because they're unworthy, but because they've mistaken invisibility for humility. They think being humble means hiding, that staying quiet makes them noble. But that's not humility. That's fear dressed up as virtue. Real humility isn't denying your power. It's owning it without arrogance. It's standing tall and saying, yes, I can, without needing applause to validate it. Because pretending you're small doesn't make you good. It makes you invisible. And invisible people don't change the world. You were taught that showing confidence was arrogance, that standing out was dangerous, that being seen would invite judgment. And maybe it will. Maybe people will criticize, whisper, doubt you. But their words can't destroy you. Your silence can. Every time you hide what you're capable of, every time you hold back your voice, you build the cage they wanted you in. They don't have to silence you if you're already doing it for them. They don't have to block your path if you never take the first step. The world doesn't owe you recognition. It owes you reflection, and it reflects what you project. If you hide, it hides you. If you step up, it steps aside. It's funny how people who fear being seen forget how fragile time is. You think you have endless chances, endless tomorrows, endless opportunities to show who you are. But life doesn't wait. The stage doesn't stay empty forever. Someone else steps up. Someone braver, louder, less prepared maybe, but visible. And while you're waiting for the perfect moment, they're already living the one you wanted. That's the painful truth. The world doesn't reward the best. It rewards the bold. And that's what makes it all sting. Knowing that what's holding you back isn't a lack of talent, it's hesitation. You've built a wall made of what-ifs and excuses, calling it timing, calling it patience. But really it's fear of failure. You're afraid to be seen trying, afraid to fall in front of people, afraid to be misunderstood. But guess what? You'll be misunderstood either way. You can play small and they'll call you weak. You can rise and they'll call you arrogant. You can't control their narrative, but you can control your own silence. There's a kind of madness in watching others live the life you're built for simply because you were too afraid to be seen. You watch them succeed and think they're lucky. But luck is just visibility meeting opportunity. They showed up. They made noise. They made people look. That's the secret. You have to force the world to notice you, not by screaming for attention, but by existing unapologetically, by walking into rooms like you belong there, by speaking your truth even when your voice trembles. Because silence might keep you safe, but it will never make you seen. And you know what's dangerous about being unseen for too long? You start to believe you don't exist. You start to believe your ideas don't matter, your dreams don't count, your voice doesn't carry. That's how potential dies. Not from lack of ability, but from neglect. You stop feeding it. You stop believing in it. You start blending in with the very people who once told you you couldn't stand out. And soon, you're one of them, living half a life, clapping for others, wondering what it would have been like if you had dared to be seen. It's ironic. The same world that tells you to stay quiet also praises those who refuse to. The same people who mocked your confidence will one day admire your courage. They'll act like they always believed in you, like they always knew you'd make it. They didn't, but you did. Somewhere deep inside, beneath all that doubt, you always knew you were meant for more than silence. You just had to stop asking for permission to be seen. So, no more hiding behind excuses. No more pretending your light is too bright. The world doesn't respect what it can't see, and it never will. You want to be respected. Then step forward. Speak. Move. Show them. Not because you need their validation, but because you owe it to yourself. The world needs what you've been hiding, and the clock isn't waiting for you to be ready. You don't get respect by waiting to be noticed. You get it by standing where everyone can see and daring not to flinch. People spend their whole lives wearing masks, pretending they're fine, pretending they're happy, pretending they've got everything figured out. They smile at the world like nothing's wrong, but deep down, there's a storm. A storm they're too afraid to show because they've been taught that showing pain means weakness, that admitting struggle means failure. So they hide, behind filters, behind fake laughter, behind perfectly timed words that mean nothing. And every day, the mask gets heavier. But they keep it on because the world told them to keep it together. The world doesn't want to see real. It wants to see rehearsed. You walk around thinking that the world will fall apart if you let it see what's actually happening inside you. You convince yourself that nobody would understand, nobody would care. So you build walls. You learn to lie with your eyes, smile with your mouth, and die quietly in your mind. And the sad part, you get good at it. You become so good at pretending that even you start believing your own act. You forget what it's like to feel something real. You forget what it's like to breathe without performance. You turn into your own disguise. People ask how you're doing, and you say, "I'm fine." Those two words, the biggest lie we've all agreed to tell. "I'm fine" has become the world's favorite mask. It's the perfect cover, short enough to hide behind, vague enough to avoid questions. You throw it out like a shield every time someone gets too close, every time someone might actually see the cracks. Because God forbid someone sees the truth. God forbid they realize you're not okay. You'd rather drown in silence than risk being judged for the noise inside your head. But what if you stopped pretending for once? What if you stopped holding it all in and let the world see the raw, unfiltered chaos inside? Not the pretty version. Not the socially acceptable version. The real one. The one that's been screaming behind your smile. What if you stood in public and said, "This is me, broken, confused, messy, and alive"? Maybe then you'd finally breathe. Maybe then you'd finally stop feeling like an actor in someone else's play. Because there's power in being seen. Real power. Not the kind that comes from perfection, but the kind that comes from honesty. People always talk about courage like it's about fighting wars or chasing dreams. But sometimes courage is just taking off the mask in front of people who expect you to keep it on. It's admitting you're not okay in a world that worships okayness. It's showing the scars instead of hiding them. It's telling the truth even when it shakes your voice. Because the moment you do, something happens. Not to them, but to you. You stop being a ghost in your own story. You start existing again. But people won't understand that right away. They'll call you dramatic. They'll say you're seeking attention. They'll whisper like honesty is a crime. That's because your truth reminds them of their own. Your courage makes them uncomfortable because it exposes their pretending. They'll laugh at you, but secretly, they'll envy your freedom. because deep down, they want to be real too. They just don't know how. They're trapped in the same game. Different masks, same rules. You know what's funny. Everyone's desperate to be understood, but no one's willing to be seen. They want connection, but they hide everything that could make it real. They talk about authenticity like it's a brand, not a way of living. They say, be yourself, then punish you when you actually do it. That's the joke. Everyone wants real until it gets uncomfortable. Everyone wants truth until it stops being pretty. So stop waiting for permission to be honest. Stop editing your pain to make it digestible for people who've never tasted it. Stop apologizing for being human. You're not a robot. You're not supposed to have it all together. Life isn't a performance. It's a confession. And the more you hide it, the heavier it becomes. You carry all that silence like a weight on your chest, suffocating yourself for the sake of appearances. But you can't heal what you keep hidden. You can't find peace pretending you don't need it. It's strange, isn't it? We're all bleeding, all breaking, all trying to keep the illusion alive. Yet everyone's pretending to be fine. What a strange, lonely world we've built. A world that claps for smiles and ignores screams. A world that celebrates the fake and buries the real. And you wonder why people lose themselves. Because you can only pretend for so long before you forget who you were pretending to be in the first place. One day you'll wake up and realize the only thing worse than being judged is never being known. That's what hiding does. It erases you slowly. You fade behind your own act until there's nothing left but echoes of what you used to be. But the moment you stop pretending, the moment you let the world see what's real, that's when you start to live again. Because pain that's hidden grows, but pain that's exposed heals. You've been quiet for too long, playing the part everyone expected you to play. Maybe it's time to stop hiding behind, I'm fine. Maybe it's time to stop whispering your truth in private and start speaking it in public. Not to prove anything, not to get sympathy, but to set yourself free. Because the world doesn't need another mask. It needs something real, something raw, something honest. It needs you. Without filters, without fear, without pretending. People think silence keeps them safe. That if they don't speak, if they don't show, if they just stay quiet and nod along, life will somehow reward their obedience. They think the world will appreciate their patience, their humility, their ability to swallow every truth and pretend everything's fine. But silence doesn't save you. It cages you. It traps your voice inside your throat until you start to suffocate on the very words you were too afraid to say. You start to rot in your own stillness. You think you're protecting peace, but you're really killing your spirit slowly, one unspoken truth at a time. People confuse silence with strength. But it's not strength, it's survival. And there's a difference. Survival is what you do when you're scared. Strength is what you show when you're not anymore. The world taught you to be silent because it's easier to control quiet people. The moment you start speaking truth, the game changes. The moment you show your real voice, you become dangerous. And they don't like dangerous. They don't like unpredictable. They like obedience, the polite smiles, the nervous laughs, the words that mean nothing but keep everything comfortable. But comfort is a lie, and silence is its servant. You've been silenced so long that even your thoughts whisper now. You doubt your own feelings before they even reach your lips. You ask yourself, should I say this? What will they think? Will they still like me? You edit your truth before it's even born. That's how silence wins, not by force, but by conditioning. It teaches you to betray yourself gently, to censor your soul, until you don't even notice it happening. You become fluent in quiet suffering. You start calling it peace, just to make it sound noble. But peace without truth is poison. It looks calm on the outside, but it kills from within. You think speaking up will make people leave, but silence makes you leave yourself first. You become invisible in your own story. You let everyone else narrate your life while you just sit there, agreeing, smiling, pretending. You let the world define your worth because you're too afraid to say otherwise. You forget that your voice is not just sound. It's proof you exist. When you don't use it, you vanish. You dissolve into the background, watching everyone else live while you hold your breath, waiting for permission that will never come. They'll tell you to stay humble, stay respectful, stay quiet, as if silence is a virtue. But most of the time, it's fear in disguise. They want you to shrink so they can shine. They want you to hide your truth so theirs looks cleaner. They'll call you arrogant the moment you stop apologizing for existing. They'll call you dramatic the moment you speak your pain out loud. That's because your voice threatens their comfort. Your truth shakes their illusion. People love silence when it protects their lies. But the moment your honesty walks into the room, they panic. Because realness has a way of exposing what fake can't hide. You were never meant to fit into quiet places. You were built for volume, for chaos, for truth that cracks walls open. But somewhere along the way, you forgot that. You traded your roar for approval. You let the fear of judgment outweigh the weight of your truth. And now you sit there restless, choking on the words you never said. You call it anxiety, you call it pressure. But deep down, it's your voice begging to be heard. It's your soul clawing at the inside of your chest, screaming, "Let me out." And here's the part no one tells you. Once you finally speak, once you break that silence, there's no going back. The moment you taste honesty, everything fake becomes unbearable. You start noticing the noise in other people's silence, the lies in their smiles, the emptiness in their applause. You start craving truth like oxygen, and you can't survive without it anymore. That's what freedom feels like. Terrifying loud, and absolutely necessary. The world doesn't change when you stay silent. The people who hurt you don't stop because you forgive them quietly. The injustice doesn't vanish because you chose to be the bigger person. All silence does is teach them that you can be silenced, that you'll accept it, that you'll take the hit and say thank you. But the moment you stop, the moment you look up and say, no more, everything trembles. Because suddenly, the script doesn't work anymore. You stop being predictable. You stop being controlled. You stop being a character and start being the writer. People will say you've changed. Of course you have. You stop pretending. They'll say you're louder now. Of course you are. You stop choking on your truth. They'll say you're difficult, rebellious, rude. That's what they call people who stop being easy to manipulate. But that's fine. You weren't born to be agreeable. You were born to be real. And realness has never been polite. You don't need to shout to be heard. You just need to stop whispering what should have been screamed long ago. Because your truth doesn't need validation. It just needs release. The world might not clap for it. They might not understand it. They might even turn away. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that your silence finally breaks, that the sound of your truth echoes louder than your fear ever did. They told you that fitting in was survival. Blend in, stay small. Don't draw attention. They said standing out was dangerous, that the world eats the loud, the bold, the different. So you adjusted. You softened your edges. You dimmed your fire just enough not to make anyone else uncomfortable. You started calling it maturity, calling it wisdom, when really it was surrender. Because deep down, you knew you were never meant to fit in. You were meant to be seen. But they made you believe that visibility was arrogance, that confidence was sin, that wanting to shine made you selfish. And so you began to shrink, not because you didn't have power, but because the world made you apologize for it. You can always tell when someone was meant to stand out. There's a restlessness in their silence, a storm behind their eyes. They walk differently, like they're holding something the world can't quite understand. And the world feels it too. That's why it tries so hard to tame them. It calls them too much, too loud, too intense. But the truth is, the world isn't threatened by your noise. It's terrified of your presence. Because presence demands attention, and attention brings change. The system can't handle change. It runs on conformity. The moment you stop blending in, you break the machine. That's why they call you dangerous. You weren't built for quiet corners. You were made for the center of the storm. The spotlight isn't arrogance when you've earned your scars. You've bled for that light. You've cried for it. You've clawed your way through darkness just to be worthy of standing in it. And now they want you to go back, to hide again, to apologize for surviving too loudly. Isn't it funny? They didn't care when you were broken, but the moment you heal, the moment you rise, suddenly you're intimidating.